MurderMurder News.
Hey monsters! Thanks for tuning in to MurderMurder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. Plus, baby goats. I'm Aurora.
And I'm Angelina. This is the Week in True Crime. This week, we have seen a rise in super unfunny COVID-related hoaxes where someone records themselves in public claiming they have the virus. In Albemarle, North Carolina, Justin Rhodes appeared on Facebook Live while claiming he had COVID-19 and touching items in the store. Justin was arrested and is facing felony charges for disorderly conduct. Similarly, Cody Pfister of Warrenton, Missouri, filmed himself licking toiletries in a store and was arrested after the video circulated around Twitter. The moral of the story here is that maybe you shouldn't lick things in a grocery store during a pandemic where people are dying. Just stay home, folks.
And if you have to go out, please refrain from putting your mouth on toiletries.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Police in Alaska have charged 18-year-old Jordan Mark for the murder of 10-year-old Ida Girlie Aguchak. Ugh, sweet little angel. Girlie was reported missing on March 15th in her village in Alaska. The next day, her body was found by tribal police officer. Jordan Mark is charged with first-degree murder, first-degree sexual abuse of a minor, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence.
A New Orleans woman, Huong Nguyen, was found fatally shot in the trunk of her car on March 13th, and police began a search to find out who killed Huong. She was last seen leaving her job at an insurance company on March 11th, and her boss reported her missing when she didn't show up for work the next day. Her car was discovered less than a mile from her home. Security footage around Hong's home showed her car being backed up into her driveway and a man getting out of the car. Police have charged her brother, Hoa, with second-degree murder.
Let's lighten the mood with a very special guest here to tell you about a very mysterious true crime story.
Murder really does run in the family. And I don't know about you all, but I've been spending a lot of my time while social distancing, catching up with friends and family. And I'm here today with my wonderfully talented storytelling niece, Morgan. We decided that today would be a good day to tell each other murder stories. So welcome, Morgan.
Hi. Yeah.
Right now you're out of school. You've been out of school for almost 2 weeks. And I was wondering what you're doing to keep busy during Rona.
Well, it's very convenient, but of course I'm a murderino, so I have to watch my documentaries about how different crimes are taking place on YouTube. So I watch a lot of different ones of those.
Awesome. Do you have any favorites?
Oh, my favorite ones so far right now, I just learned about this case of this girl who actually had a virus and she was a carrier of it and she didn't know. So she was like spreading the disease to everybody that she was working for, and they isolated her and she actually died in isolation and they tried to sue her.
Wow. Do you know what it's called?
I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I know that she was like an Irish woman and like she was a cook and everything.
Was it Typhoid Mary?
Yes. It was
Oh my
Typhoid
goodness.
Mary.
Yes, I know that story from the podcast, My Favorite Murder. And it's really, really wild. And the woman just kept changing her name, I think, and like going and still cooking in people's homes and continuing to spread typhoid.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Well, I hear you have a really good mystery for us today. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Yeah. So this is the story about the Elisa Lam case and how she died in the Cecil Hotel and all of that. Do you want me to get into like the basics of the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, so to sum it all up here, there's a lot about this case. I could go on and ramble about it. But basically, what happened is in 2013, on February 19th, 2013, at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, California, the body of Elisa Lam was found in the water tanks of the hotel. So we're going to discuss how that might have happened.
Yeah.
There's 5 main theories on how people think her murder took place. A lot of people think the theories on this was either she was on drugs or halogens or something like that, but it actually was like discounted because they said that there was no drugs or alcohol or anything found in her blood or anything like that. Another theory was she was murdered, which I think is probably the biggest one. most likely one, but the autopsy showed no viable signs of trauma to the body. So that's kind of like the thing that kind of discounts that. Another one is suicide, which people are like, how did she do that by herself? Because it's way hard to get up to the roof. There's only two things that you can do. It's either go up the fire escape, which it was out the window, and you have to climb out the window. That's kind of hard.
Right.
And another one, go through a door that had an alarm on it when you opened it that only people who worked at the hotel could access. So they were like, that's not
Sounds
really.
really dramatic. Like, even if she
Yeah.
managed to get up to the rooftop, then to climb into, what is it, like a water heater? Was that what it
Yeah.
was? Like, to drown yourself? Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
even so, why would you pick that way of dying? Like, that seems like very like implausible. No one would be like, I want to go in a water tank and then drown myself. That you think you
There
would
are
want it to be
lots of
easy.
pools in LA.
Yeah.
Like, if that was
And
the way
like
you wanted to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like another thing is like they said like if she got in the water tank, how would she be able to close the lid? Because it was like fully closed, latched and everything. So they don't really know how that happened.
Right.
And then the fourth theory is there was a ghost. Because there was a video that appears that she's talking to somebody outside an elevator, which led to the internet believing that there was a ghost or a serial killer or something that she was talking to. And
I
then
think
the
that
last
could
three,
be plausible because,
yeah,
I mean, isn't that one of the places that Ramirez stayed, the Night
yep.
Stalker? I mean, that place is supposedly super haunted.
There was actually 2 serial killers that stayed there.
Really?
Before she did that. Yeah,
Wow.
I like all the information on them too. Um, then the fifth theory is, which I think is the most interesting one, is the elevator game. And everyone thought she was playing it due to the video of her punching in the codes of the elevator.
So what's the elevator game?
It's basically this game that you play and you like punch in a certain code and like go up the levels and stuff to get to a different like realm. Like you're in the same place, but you're the only one there.
I have never heard that theory before in my entire life. Like, how plausible do you think that is? Is the elevator game real?
I don't think it's very plausible, but I think maybe she thought it was like something that she could do, and maybe that's how that all happened, but I still don't understand how that leads her to the roof.
I'm gonna need you to send me how that game is played because right now I'm in a building that has 54 stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if there were a place to experiment with traveling to alternate universes, right now during Rona is the time to do that. And staying in a building with 54 stories is a good time to experiment.
I'll have to send you all the ways to figure that out.
Please do.
That's kind of like the basis of the story, like how people think she did it. We don't really know exactly how she got to the roof. We only really know what the video shows us, which is just like her panicking in an elevator. And a lot of people think like it was murder because if you watch the video, the elevator takes so long to close. Like she runs in and out of it, goes down the hallway, and it still does not close. And people are
Whoa.
like, well, that's really suspicious because elevators close pretty fast.
Yeah. So when they found her body, they weren't able to determine the cause of death. Like, there were no
No,
clues.
they couldn't determine the cause of death. They said that it was, let me look. They said that the most plausible way of death was drowning, but
Uh-huh.
they ruled the death an accident.
That's interesting because, I certainly don't know much about forensics and such. Like, I'd like to know more, but you would think from drowning that there would be water in the lungs or some kind of intake of water. So you would think that that would be a pretty obvious way to tell if somebody died or to rule it out.
Yeah.
So is there something more sinister going on that they're like, maybe that's not true. Maybe you can't tell if somebody's drowned by cause of death, but like, I wonder if there's some kind of like cover up of some sort.
Yeah,
Are there
I
any
mean,
conspiracy theories?
Conspiracy theories.
Should we start one right now?
Yeah, we definitely did.
So, out of those
Government cover up.
possibilities, which one do you think is the most likely way she died?
I think murder, just because I don't think there's like any way that she could have done what happened to her on herself. And I don't think the elevator game's very plausible because it still doesn't tell us how she got up to the roof. And
Yeah.
another, I don't think it was suicide either because there's so many different ways that you could commit suicide. And I don't think going in a water tank would be the way somebody would want to go. I
Right.
mean, there's just so many things that she could have done if she wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think I'm either on team murder or team ghost.
Oh yeah, Ghost is fun too.
I feel like she was harassed by a ghost for sure. Like I know that I personally have been before in my life, and that place must be super haunted. I've actually never been. It's still there in LA, and and I lived in Los Angeles for 4 years, and I kept meaning to drive past it just because there's so much bizarre history. Like I think the Black Dahlia maybe stayed there right before she died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much really wild history about that place. So maybe if you and I take a trip to LA, we will not stay in that hotel, but we will go visit.
Yeah, I will agree to that. I'm not staying in it, but I will go visit it. I'll stay
Perfect.
outside while you go in.
Well, Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time out during your very busy Rona period to tell us a story, and we hope you'll come back soon.
That was fun.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, I'll talk to you later. It was good seeing you.
Now, this week, we're watching Tiger King on Netflix. You may be familiar with the story of Joe Exotic from the podcast Over My Dead Body, but this show takes a deep dive into the rivalry between Joe Exotic, the owner of a roadside zoo in Oklahoma, and Carol Baskin, the owner of a big cat sanctuary in Tampa, Florida. Get ready to have your mind blown as this story features polygamy, murder-for-hire plot, cults, mullets, tons of leopard print, and some pretty fantastic country songs performed while holding guns on top of a truck. Check out the show and let us know what you think in the comments below.
It is our goal to keep you entertained during this time of self-isolation, and to help cure your boredom, we would like to recommend this week's favorite podcast, Beyond the Rainbow. CJ, the host of Beyond the Rainbow, started the podcast to help with representation of crime affecting the LGBTQ community. We recently talked to CJ about her inspiration to start Beyond the Rainbow, the time the Golden State Killer called her house, and got her official list of favorite podcasts. Check out our full interview with CJ at MurderMurder.news.
What a story. Can you imagine being called by the Golden State Killer?
Oh my God, it's so spooky. Like, she said she can still remember his voice, like, to this
Yeah.
day. Ugh.
I would remember that forever. It's like one of the
Forever.
most iconic things about that story is just thinking about those phone calls.
It's like deep, like, heavy breathing. Ugh,
yeah.
so
creepy. We have two more very special guests, Paula and Ale from the podcast Undercover Coven.
I am personally in love with both of you. And the first advice I have on Surviving Rona is to go subscribe to their podcast right now because they're both so amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Yay. So we're going to get started by checking in to see how the lockdown is where you're both living. It's interesting to me because I'm personally in Canada right now in Montreal, and I keep seeing rushes on grocery stores in the US, and it seems like it's affecting everybody a little bit differently. So Ali, you're in Toronto, and Paula, you're in Valparaiso, and I was wondering how it's going where you both live.
You want to go first, Sally?
I'll go first because mine, I feel like it is pretty bad here, but also we're not really in a full lockdown. So they closed down bars and restaurants. They're only open for takeout, if anything. They closed down all the diners on the fast food places. So again, it's takeout and drive-through that it's open. But everything else, they can't really force. So the city cannot really force to close businesses down. They can urge them to and like advise them to. But for example, I work on a home improvement store, and we're pretty much open. It took them a while though to shorten the hours. And just yesterday, they started kind of monitoring the flow of the people that comes in. So people just kind of have to start lining up because it makes no sense that
Right.
they close everything else and they urge you to stay home. But the store was absolutely busy, like so busy. And people would just sign up one next to each other, cash. And my department itself was extremely busy because people have nothing to do at home. So they go out and shop for non-essentials, which is stupid.
They should not be doing that.
No. And, I kept saying, I mean, thank you, because I was beating my sales plan by this much. But also, I mean, my associates weren't feeling comfortable coming to work. And a lot of people don't feel comfortable coming to work, so they're not coming for the next few weeks. So they just started monitoring the flow of the store, like how many people are. They have to line up. One goes out, one comes in, and just shorten the hours of the store, because that's really the only way to urge people to stay at home. But people really are not staying at home. Like, I really don't understand.
It's so wild to me that people are not taking that seriously. Like, I'm personally terrified. And I'm not a high risk person, certainly myself. And I'm not necessarily coming into contact with people while I'm self isolated. But it's like, we have to flatten the curve and stick together.
Really, yeah.
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 Yeah,
And like
and how
social
about-
distancing, that's a huge thing too, because customers, they just come up to your face. They don't care. They, and they come with their children into the store, which is the other thing that I don't understand.
Everyone's coughing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And how about for you, Paula? How are things going in Chile?
In my case, well, I have to apologize beforehand. I'm a bit sick, but I'm good. It's not Corona.
Right.
It's not. So here, coronavirus just got here. It got here last week.
Wow.
And everybody's been self-isolating. The government just now declared what's it called, martial law at night. So from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. everybody has to stay home, like a curfew. Yeah.
Right.
10 p.m. to 5 a.m. everybody has to stay home, and people in the government have been like, no, you guys have to stay home, self-quarantine, stay away from restaurants and things like that. They just shut down malls. Thankfully, in my area of work, I'm a graphic designer. I can work from home, so my whole office is staying home.
That's
But
great.
the bad thing is that we've gotten complaints like online and on Twitter and things. You see bosses telling their employees that if they don't come to work, they're going to be fired. And people still have to take the bus, the subway, public transport and everything. And it's been really sad. And people like in governments in the regions are just trying to urge the president to declare full lockdown, because it's been really bad. Like the numbers have gone up so badly, and we're right next to Italy, like in how the growth has been. Right now there are like 630 people that have the illness in Chile, and in my area there's 18 now, I think. And I just don't want to leave my house at all. Like it terrifies me, honestly.
And I think that's the best thing to do right now for everybody, is just to stay home. And I wanted to hear from both of you. What are you doing to preserve your sanity right now? What shows are you watching? Is there any true crime goodness or murdery things that everybody should be watching right now?
I don't know what the thing is. You've been at home more than I have.
Oh, true. So preserving my sanity has been kind of easy, because I am like I love to stay home, and I'm an introvert, so I don't like people at all in general. I've been doing a lot of work since I had to, still work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I work a lot. And when I don't work, I just play video games, or I watch either The Boys, which is a series on Amazon, or Ash versus the Evil Dead. And thankfully, because of the podcast, I've had to do like a lot of investigating into true crime, so that's always entertaining. But my day's been really relaxed, and I haven't lost my sanity yet, thankfully.
Good.
Yeah. I haven't watched any true crime shows. I did watch I'm Not Okay With This on Netflix.
Yes.
It's so
I have seen
good.
this.
And it's so short.
Right.
And it's
Is it a
such a good
show?
story. Yeah, it's a series. It's the one I told you about that's like kind of inspired by Carrie by Stephen King.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's really fun. It's really short. I totally recommend it if you want to see some blood. It's not scary or anything, but it's fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's great, and I had heard some people talking about it in some Murderino forums, so I checked it out starting last Sunday. And often my husband and I watch TV separately. Like I watch a lot of Forensic Files and the typical sort of true crime stuff. And I have no idea what he even watches. I couldn't tell you. But so I had it on out in our living room. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's sort of a coming of age movie. It has a very 16 Candles or Carrie sort of feel. And the girl, the main character in it, realizes that she has superhero powers and things are starting to happen and she's affecting things around her in a way that she doesn't feel like she's controlling it.
Yeah.
And like they started off by showing that something terrible is going to happen. It has like a Carrie moment where she's covered in blood, and they're then going back to a flashback where they're explaining how we got to where we are, and it's so good.
It's so fun. It's just
Yeah.
it's very light. It's like a big metaphor for purity. Like
Yeah.
it's obvious, but it's very fun. It's very light and it's so short. It's like half-hour episodes. So it's very short.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, like
You would
even
like
I
it,
feel like
Ade.
I think you would. And it's interesting because, like I was saying, my husband and I usually watch different things. But as I had it on, he's like, "What are you watching? You didn't tell me it was a superhero thing. Like, you didn't tell me there was like magical elements." And suddenly he was like engaged and was really upset when I watched it without him. So I feel like it covers kind of a diverse audience too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the people who act are the girl from It, Beverly, like the
I saw
redhead,
her in the trailer, yeah.
and
One of the trailers.
Stanley from It, whose name is Stanley also in the series.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
so funny. I had no idea.
Oh, really? It's just that I'm a huge fan of It, and so I recognize them both.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and I saw it as a kid, like when it had first come out, and it scared me so bad that I haven't seen the new version yet because it looks like it's even scarier than the original. Okay, I
It's
probably
so
need to,
good.
like, this week while I'm just home with nothing to do, I probably should dive into it too, because I do like a horror movie if I watch it in the daytime.
That makes sense. I actually started out that way. I was not a huge horror fan just because I would get scared
Yeah.
like a lot to the point where I couldn't sleep. So I started watching horror movies in the daytime and then I got used to it. So then now I can watch it anytime.
That's awesome.
Finally.
Yeah. Maybe
That's
I'll get there. Like maybe I'll get there like now, since I think like everybody has a free excuse to watch daytime TV right now. Like you can do whatever you want. Like you're being a hero and just staying home and not risking people's health and safety. So like watch whatever you want in the daytime.
Exactly.
True.
Like do that
So
instead of going out and shopping for things that you don't
Oh,
need.
please, please.
yeah.
Here people are
Sure.
going to the beach. Like
Oh my
that's not a
goodness.
vacation.
Yeah. That's amazing. I wish
Yeah.
that, because like here in Montreal, at least they've been encouraging people to still get outside and walk around, but by yourself. And so I have a dog, and so I take him for little walks just to kind of get some fresh air. And I was thinking how nice it would be to have someplace warm to go to, like the beach. But it seems like the places that have really nice weather right now, like Florida is not taking it seriously, and they had their big spring break fiasco recently. And so places with nicer weather, maybe it's not as good as I think it will be because people are congregating. Is that kind of how it feels?
Well, here it's summer.
Oh my
So
God,
people
I'm
are
jealous.
going to the beach and it's
Right.
ridiculous. So please don't go to the beach.
Yeah.
Please
Stay
just
home,
don't leave.
people. And Ollie, have you been able to watch anything? Like, have you had any downtime or decompression time?
Yeah, this weekend actually. As soon as I got off work on Friday, in the afternoon. I came home, and like I've been trying to stay home. Like I don't go anywhere if I don't have to, and if I have to do like run errands and stuff, I do it like before or after work, so I don't have to go out again.
Right.
And so this weekend was my weekend off, thank God. And yeah, I stayed home. I watched a lot of Drop Dead Diva. Like I haven't watched a lot of horror.
Ooh.
Yeah. I considered watching Contagion for like the 50th time yesterday because I watched it so many times. But with what's happening now, I don't want to freak myself out.
I've never seen Contagion. What is like? I'm assuming it's a apocalyptic
It's what's happening
thing.
now.
Yeah,
It's a
literally
movie.
real.
It was released like what, 6 years ago, maybe?
2013, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically what's happening now. It's
Yeah. So
like
it's
the
a
same thing.
pandemic that comes into like all over the world, and so I think Kate Winslet is some sort of doctor, and Matt Damon is in it. What's her name? Gwyneth
The French one.
Paltrow. The French
Oh,
one.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
The French one.
So she's patient zero, no?
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow
Because
is
she
patient
brings
zero.
it from China. She gets. They show her she's like a businesswoman, right? And she's traveling from China. And she gets to the States, and she's really really sick. And then people that interacted with her starts getting really really sick, and it's like the same thing. It's a flu, so it's like cough and it's a flu. And then people start signing off, and it just starts getting really, really like all over the world. It just spreads, and so they start like telling you like make sure you stay home and like you're not interacting with anybody. Grocery stores start getting run down because like people are just crazy buying things.
It's the same thing.
It's
The
what's
only
happening
difference.
now.
Oh my god.
The only difference is that in the movie, the disease at the end you die. It's like it's not
Like
like
you
now
are
that people are recovering, people are going to
Right.
die in the movie.
Yeah.
And basically they show what makes you really paranoid is that they show, for example, Gwyneth Paltrow being patient zero, but they show like everything she touches and how
every single
that
thing.
is being transferred to other people. And so
Yeah.
like for example, she drinks from a glass, and then the waiter picks up the glass, and then the person who's washing the dishes, and it just goes on and
Yeah.
on.
So everybody, there's like a trace that it's such a good movie, but it's
It's such
exactly
a
what's
good movie.
funny. I mentioned that like when this first started happening like in China and it hadn't reached like we just see it on the news or whatever, right? I said, "Oh, that sounds like that movie Contagion." And I would mention it to people and I would go, "Can you imagine that would happen?" Because I was like, "This just sounds exactly like the movie Contagion." And I was talking to a friend yesterday and he's like, "Oh, so it's your fault is what you're saying."
Oh my god. Well,
It's such a
imagine
good
that it's
movie.
happening because
It
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, I'm definitely gonna watch that one too then.
yeah, you should.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been watching. I mean, I'm probably gonna watch that after. But that Drop Dead Diva, I've been watching a lot of Drop Dead Diva.
I
Have you
don't know
ever?
what Drop Dead Diva is.
I don't even know. I don't know either.
No? Oh my God, you guys are so good. It's a, it's a drama comedy show. So it's this lawyer and this model, right? They die at the same time. Like one gets
Okay.
shot and the other one dies in a car crash, and then the model goes up to heaven and she's like, no, I don't want to die. And so she presses a return button. She's with an angel. She presses a return button and she goes into the body of the lawyer that was also dying at the same time. And so when she like comes back to it, she's like this model trapped in this lawyer's body, this girl's body, and she's like, oh, who am I? So
How
she
am
has
I
to
gonna
live
be a
her
lawyer?
life as her. And then she starts like just discovering like who she is, and it's so funny. It's just like she's like this ditzy blonde girl who's like also a lawyer who knows a lot because I mean she has her brain,
Right.
and so it just show her like her getting used to that. It's so good. It's such a good show.
That's interesting.
It
Yeah,
is.
and
It's really
I
funny.
feel like I've been really wanting some lighthearted, like funny, like cute sorts of things. So that might be a nice palate cleanser for
Oh yeah.
like after I watch like all these really anxiety inducing things like Contagion and it. Well, I have what I've been watching this past week, aside from is it called This Is Really Happening, or is that what it's called? The
From
one with the Carrie back plot we were
Oh,
just
I'm
talking
not
This is
okay
not
with
okay.
this.
I'm
Oh,
not
I'm not
okay
okay
with
with
this.
this.
That's right. Yeah, aside from watching that, I've been watching The Outsider, the Stephen King on HBO.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
man, I don't even know what's going on in that show. Like I'm almost done with it and I'm definitely going to finish it because it's wild, but it starts off really cool. Like it starts off feeling like it's a true crime show. Like just a true crime drama. We have a missing child, I think like a around 10-ish year old boy is found in the woods, just like ripped to shreds. And they assume that it looks like it's been done by a human, and they assume it's probably like a pedophile sort of situation. And the evidence at this scene all points to a character played by Jason Bateman, and his DNA's there, and he happens to be a coach for like I don't know if it's baseball or softball or whatever for kids. Like he's a coach, and so it seems like, oh, maybe he's using this to get close to the kids. And like the kid that comes up missing and is dead is a kid he knows. So they arrest him, and in the first episode, you're like, where is this gonna go? Because they found the guy, his DNA's at the scene. Like, where are they gonna take this show next? But it turns out there's like a guy that looks just like him that was acting all of these things out, and Jason Bateman is then proven to be at another location, and that all happens in the first episode, so this isn't giving away much. And it comes like it has all this like stuff with doppelgangers, like that concept in Germany, which I didn't quite know the story of, so I'm like looking it up in Wikipedia, like what is the story of doppelgangers? I thought it was just someone who looked like you or whatever. So it's really wild. It turns into this supernatural, bizarre universe. It's super entertaining. It's kind of spooky, but not scary. And I think I'm maybe an episode or two away from the finale, but the acting and everything's super incredible. So I recommend it. It does get very weird.
I'm gonna read the book first. I'm gonna get it right after we finish. I'm gonna get the book first.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually a really
okay.
good idea. I would like to know what the original inspiration was. And I love Stephen King books. I haven't read one since I was like a kid, but they're so good and well written. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I recommend a book?
Yes.
It's called The Long Walk, and it's written as Richard Bachman, but it's really Stephen King.
Oh.
And it's probably it's psychological thriller, and it messes you up. It's about a group of boys who are like young teenage boys who go into this Hunger Games as contests where they have to walk, and they have to walk until there's one person left, and so they walk for days.
I would lose that
So
the
it's like
first
out
day.
of exhaustion
Who wins, right?
who wins. Oh my
Are you
God.
allowed
Yeah.
snacks? Are you allowed, like, I'm a
Yeah,
tourist. Like, I really want to know
they-
about the snacks.
They have
Right?
forewarning.
Like as
Yeah.
long as I have water and I have snacks, like I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah, they have to walk at a certain pace, and they have like military around them keeping up, like to see who's going slower or faster.
Like the Hunger Games.
And like the Hunger Games, and they're allowed snacks, they're allowed water, and bathroom breaks are not really there. Like they can't have bathroom breaks, but they can, for example, they pee walking backwards, or they have 4 warning shots, and at the end, if you get the 4th warning, you get killed. So if they have to like do number 2, they
my
have to like
God.
squat down and
Keep walking?
do it right there in the street, but it's a risk that they can get a warning,
Oh my
like one
God.
of these warnings. And so it just the main protagonist talks to these boys around him and tries to see why they're doing it, because the prize at the end is anything you want.
So whatever you ask for, you'll get it.
Yeah.
And from like a magical element, like it could be like anything in the universe. It could be eternal life. It could be, whatever.
Yeah, very
Like-
Stephen King-esque. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
and so these boys, like, they talk about what total exhaustion feels like. And for example, there's this boy whose shoes just give in, and he has to walk like with socks on, and then the socks give out, and then just his feet, and then he's bleeding and things like that. And what it does to you mentally.
Oh my
It's so
goodness.
good.
That sounds really good. Thank you so much for the book recommendation. I'm going to check that out.
It's a long walk.
Yeah. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all the suggestions. I also want to give you a chance to plug your social media for Undercover Coven, so let us know where we can find you.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Undercover Coven. And if you want to email us with any suggestions or any stories, you can do that at undercovercoven@gmail.com. And you can find us on anywhere you listen to podcasts. Anywhere.
Perfect. Thank you. Subscribe. You must subscribe to their podcast. It's so wonderful. It's so good. You guys will love it. And thank you so much. We'll see you later.
Thank
you,
you for
Aurora.
having us.
Thanks so much for tuning into This Week in True Crime with Murder Murder News. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below and give us a thumbs up and tell all of your true crime friends.
If you need more of a true crime fix, join our commune at murdermurder.news for the latest cases as they break, our monster book club, and cold case solving groups. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. See you next week. Oh, it's not working. Shit, the thing is jumping. And to help you cure your boredom, boredom. Yeah. That's right. Bum dum.